Yes, I don't think about it in exactly that way, but here's the way I do think about it. When we think about musical engagement and music learning, I think we wait far too long to invite people to make music. If you think about visual art, and you think about tiny children, we give them the materials of art making, and off they go. But with music, even though we are innately humanly musical, we wait a long time. We believe that people have to know a whole bunch of information before they're invited to actually make music. Even though kids are doing it naturally, they're making up songs, it's part of who we are. So I think that's one thing, is that creative work, I believe, is a hugely important part of musical learning and musical engagement, and I think we need to pay more attention to it. You can see that in these examples. I also feel that I'm very, very interested, particularly as we are in an ever more technology-immersed environment. I am super interested in human agency. I am interested in our keeping track of and keeping in touch with our creative capacity. And it's not a specific intention around how we build our work, but it is a thread, absolutely, and it is, I do think that it does relate to who we are as citizens in a democracy. Yes, it's such a frustration for us. Our theory about why more people don't know about this is actually that the brand of the hall is so iconic and it is so specific. What do people think of? They think of largely great orchestral music. Maybe they think about some of the extraordinarily consequential jazz performances that happened at the hall as well. But they think about performance, and they also think of an exclusive place. People ask me if they need to dress up, do they need to wear tuxes? They think of champagne. It has that, that image. And so I think it's really hard to change a fixed sense of, I'll use the word brand. I don't like to use that word so much, but that brand is really, really clear. And it's exclusive. And this work is inclusive. It is deliberately about believing that music is a huge part of human development and an important part of what everyone should be able to access. And not just one kind of music, but all different kinds of music. So I think this work is not super well aligned with what that brand is known for. We do communicate about it by land, by sea, by air, in every email, in every playbill. If you look at the Carnegie Hall website, you'll see all kinds of information about it. But I think it is going to take a long time for that broader understanding of what the hall is to include this work. What I would say about how these things are connected, there are a lot of ways. We do bring a lot of programming onto the stages. So our national youth ensembles will be on the stages. Kenyatta's concert was on one of the stages. The Lullaby Project happens in Zankel Hall. So there's that connection. But I also think that all of this work is about human creativity and aspiration. And sometimes we see that in the form of the Vienna Philharmonic, and sometimes we see it in the form of Rhiannon Giddens, and sometimes we see it in the form of families who have written lullabies to their babies. And in all these cases, you see music's extraordinary capacity to shape humans and to connect us to each other. Yes, we've been thinking about that specifically in the container of the well-being concerts. I mentioned that we did some private well-being concerts for healthcare workers. We also did some for formerly incarcerated people and their families. They told us that they would rather be integrated into a larger audience, which we totally understand, so that's how we're handling that population. We have a lot of relationships there. We are thinking about grief and end of life. We think that well-being concerts could be a beautiful, beautiful project. for folks who are in that part of their lives, family members struggling with grief. We do all this work in justice settings also, and are increasingly engaged around thinking about violence prevention. So we're thinking about that in the context of the well-being concerts. And when it comes to aging, we did some work in senior facilities in the early years. And to be honest, the reason we stepped away from it was not that it isn't important. I think it is incredibly important. But there was so much amazing programming in that space. The creative aging movement is so well established. And at that time, we decided to lean in some directions where there wasn't as much work happening. There weren't as many models. There wasn't as much research. We thought we could be helpful in generating some new knowledge and new program models in some of those spaces. So I think the well-being concerts are a place where we can engage a lot of different communities, and we're excited to do that. And I'm super interested in the artistic and creative work that happens with seniors and older people. I think that is rich and beautiful, and the only reason we don't do it is that we just can't do everything. Sure. So the two most robust programs that we have are in the elementary school range. They are Musical Explorers and Link Up. They're both active in New York City, but they're also, Musical Explorers is fully virtual. All of the curriculum resources, videos with artists, tons of lesson plans, videos of concerts. So if you want to check out Musical Explorers, it is a joyful, participatory program that introduces children in grades K, first and second grade, to musical traditions from around the world. We do that through a curriculum that helps young people to meet specific artists who represent those musical traditions. And then when they come to the concerts in New York, those artists are on the stage. My favorite anecdote from the first time we did Musical Explorers in this way was that I was in the house, and the first artist came out onto the stage, and the kids erupted, and one little girl turned to her friend and she said, "She's real." So that's Musical Explorers. Musical traditions from all over the world. There's an online map, so you can enter into that content through geographical perspective or musical traditions. We do those concerts in Carnegie Hall. Children come to the concert, they know the songs. They are singing in English and in Mandarin and in Spanish. They are moving. They really, really know what they're coming for. And you can watch those online. Link Up is our introduction to the orchestra. It's for students in grades 3, 4, and 5. And it is, again, joyful, participatory music making. It has a robust curriculum. That curriculum is also online. It's very flexible. We have teachers who unfortunately use it as a primary resource. That was never its intention, but because so many music teachers do not have the resources they need, we've built it out to be quite robust. So teachers use that curriculum. Some of them use it deep dive throughout the year. Some use it for a month before they come to the concerts. And then you come to Carnegie Hall and you have 2,000 children with their recorders. Just imagine what that sounds like for a moment. It's awesome. And sometimes band instruments, string instruments, and a fully participatory performance with an orchestra on the stage, lots of visuals, and those students really come to play along with the orchestra. That entire program we share for free with orchestras around the world. I want to note that Rasin Milanov, your conductor here, has been a big part of Link Up. He was involved in the creation of the new version of Link Up and conducted it at Carnegie Hall for years. And Chautauqua actually was an early partner in Link Up. So we give it away completely to organizations that want to have those curriculum materials, the concert scripts, the repertoire, the parts, the scores, support in figuring out how to implement it within their own settings. They can, of course, adapt it to make sense within their context. And we have 115 or so orchestras on 5 continents who are doing Link Up. So those are the big, robust curriculum-based initiatives. We also have a huge focus on music educators. We work with about 110 music educators in New York City throughout the school year. They come to the hall one Saturday a month for inspiration, community, and development of their pedagogical skills. And then in the summer, we have the Summer Music Educators Workshop. We have hundreds of teachers come from all over the place for those same things. We believe that music educators, I mean, Renee and Francis mentioned this yesterday, they are an essential piece of high quality music instruction. And they're often not well resourced, they're often isolated, and they often lose track of their own artistry. So we try to think about all those things in supporting music teachers through the workshop, both locally and nationally. Yes, so in terms of long-term data, there are numerous publications that are on the Carnegie Hall website. If you go into the education section and you look for resources, they are there. They frame the context of these spaces. I mentioned this question, what's at stake? They talk about what's at stake in these spaces. They talk about some of the outcomes we've seen. I would say that in terms of hard data, there's more to come. We're leaning in more around hard data. It's very hard to produce it as a cultural institution. You have to have partnerships with researchers. And so the Wellbeing Concerts are actually providing an interesting opportunity for that, and there's a lot more to come around Lullaby 2. There are a whole bunch of research projects around that. But you can look for our research publications on the website. And then when it comes to sharing the programs, so we have a number of programs that we specifically share and support organizations around Lullaby, Link Up. We're starting to share Wellbeing Concerts, so we have a bunch of resources and we have some pilot partners who are going to do Wellbeing Concerts in this coming season. And then we make ourselves available to have conversations with folks. We're always happy to talk about strategy, about how do we all collectively keep doing the best and the next work. What can we learn from each other? What are the specific environments in which we're working? What do those suggest for what programs need to be and can be? So I really do have conversations with all kinds of people about that, and I'm always happy to do so, and it's always mutual. We learn things from each other in this field, and that's one of the great things about being part of it.
Everyone, please join me in thanking Sarah Johnson.